All set.
Right. Let me adjust this. Welcome everybody to the Rye Town Park Commission meeting of September 21, 2021. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is behind Debbie. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
indivisible, with
with
liberty
liberty and
and
justice
justice
for all.
for all.
Thank you. Debbie, please call the roll.
Yes, Commissioner Jackson,
Here.
Commissioner Hurd.
Emily, you're on mute.
He's here.
Emily, you're on mute.
Still can't hear you, but I understand that you're here. Commissioner Marino is represented by Acting Commissioner Ferreira.
Present here.
Commissioner Rosenberg is represented by Acting Commissioner Klein.
Here.
And Commissioner Cohn is absent. President Zuckerman?
I'm here, as usual. Just one brief announcement. We are back temporarily to doing our meetings via Zoom. Obviously, because of the combination, the hybrid variation, the Delta variation of COVID-19, and the new legislation passed and signed by the state legislature, signed by Governor Hochul last week, allowing us to do this without being in violation of the open meetings law. We have the technical ability, and we used it last month to go hybrid, which we plan to do in October. We ran into a technical difficulty in that our administrator, who knows how to operate this new system, was not able to be here tonight. And hopefully we will adjust it for next time. That will enable us to have meetings both in person and via teleconference, Zoom, for those members and staff who are not able or willing to person. So with that said, first item of business. Does anybody have any question about that, by the way? Any of the commissioners? All right. With that said, our first item, of course, is adopting the minute of August 26th. May I have a motion and a second if there are no changes or corrections? Motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Public comment on non-agenda items. Do I have any members of the public who wish to comment on items not on the agenda via Facebook or either on Zoom?
Hi, Gary.
Debbie?
It's Diana from the
Hi,
Friends of
Di-
Rye Town Park. I have a question if it's okay.
Now is the time, Diana. How are you?
Okay. So my question was about the budgeting process and just sort of mindful of Rye City's budget process, which sort of culminates in a completed budget as of December 31st, and then, needs arising in the park in any given year. And so my question was, since Rye City is probably working on its budget now with an eye toward completing it for the end of the year, what is the plan for the commission and Rye City to sort of, include each other and agree priorities for the park and budget for those priorities for 2022, just so that we don't, kind of run into the situation where it seems like there are grants and matching things and Rye City can't, match because it's not in their budget. How do we break that cycle?
That's a good question, Diana. I've had conversations with Mayor Cohn about that. I've given him an indication as to where we are going. The town of Rye is in the same budget cycle that the city of Rye is in. Our budget is due December 31st, and we're going to be having our budget workshops commencing next Monday, as a matter of fact. As far as capital is concerned, I mean, there are two separate budgets. One is operating, one is capital. Last year, the city didn't actually want to adopt a Rye Town Park capital budget, which is, as you may know, more of a wish list than anything else in capital until it's actually budgeted for. But I'm happy, and I think, we've had discussions, and I'd like to sit down. I think the first step might be for Greg Ussery and Debbie to sit down and go over.
Sarah did as well. There we go.
All right, that's good. I think that that's probably the best way to do it. I've already indicated to the mayor where I thought, in a conversation I had a month or so ago, where I thought the budget process would go, what funds would be needed for capital. A lot of it is dependent, as you're aware, on whether we get grants or not. We'll probably know in December what grants we're going to get, and allocate accordingly for the next couple of years. Right now, we have several projects that we want to fund for 2022. None of it is absolutely certain. And I think that the process for allocating capital may be different between the city and the town. The town generally goes to bond because our tax receipts are not nearly those of the city of Rye. I don't know the city's process. Emily, you know it better than I, being a former council person. Major expenses we would go to. I don't foresee a large expenditure for 2022 yet, depending on what grants come in. I don't foresee, for example, and I don't know what the city's definition of large is as compared to the town's definition. I would think that anything, over $100,000 would be considered large or relatively large. It depends on the work that needs to be done. And that's something that we're looking forward to. It's not a secret. I've mentioned it many, many times during the course of our discussions, that right now the highest priority is to finish off the interior of the bathhouse. That's the major one that's on the horizon. And anybody who's been in the bathhouse, either the men's or the women's side, knows how important that work will be. Most of the rest of the work that is might be allocated could be put off to 2023, 2024, depending on the work. I know that there are a lot of residents who want to get the parking lot done. Rye residents have mentioned that. We have a grant application outstanding, and if that comes through, then it's a possibility. But again, that's something that a lot of it is a little bit up in the air as to what work we want to do. I guess this is getting a little far afield, but to get into a discussion now, one of the things we're looking to do is to do the pavilion roofs. They're in need of major repair. I'm sure you're in the park often. I'm sure you see how they're falling apart. But for that, we're expecting to get a grant, to apply for a grant through our legislative representatives through the aid to state and municipalities, and to get it paid for that way, which would not require an outlay of local funds. So this is kind of up in the air, but to go back to the original question, I think that it would be a good idea for either the city manager together with your treasurer and our town administrator together with our finance people to sit down with maybe one or two members of your council who would be interested in in looking forward. I'm totally open to any process, and any suggestions you have are welcome. Because we all know that work needs to be done in the park. I don't think there's any question that there's a lot of work that's needed. The question is what work will be done immediately, what work could be put off, and how we're going to pay for any of it.
Right.
Yeah,
And
just to
Is
weigh
there-
in.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Emily.
No, go ahead. Go ahead,
I was just
Diana.
going to say, is there any plan, I guess included in that plan, is there any sense of the municipalities setting aside money in their budgets, sort of regularly, yearly toward a fund, in order to build kind of a pool of money? Even if you
Well-
start small, over time, it might become bigger. Like, I guess, is that part of the discussion?
The city of Rye has always been willing to do that. Pardon, not the city, the town of Rye has always been willing to do that. If you go back a few years when we were running surpluses, the town of Rye always allocated at least $50,000 a year to cover any potential deficits. And back in, I think, 2016, based on the 2015 surplus, it was suggested by members of your council. I forgot who it was. Debbie, do you remember? Emily, do you remember who it was? She's not on the
I'm
council.
not sure.
Um,
What was the suggestion?
Her suggestion was that the $50,000 that had been designated in that year's budget be transferred to the park into a fund for future use.
Or to cover deficits, even though there wasn't a deficit. And what happened then was the town of Rye agreed, and we in fact transferred money to the park. And your then mayor, Mayor Sack, decided that he didn't want to do it and didn't commit the money. So
Yeah, I think I do think this like the idea of a fund is more relevant in a period where we have a operational surplus as opposed to a deficit. I think right now the city of Rye is paying, because of the way that the accounting works, we're paying 2020, right, deficit now, I think. So, and that, I think, because it was the COVID year, we had, I think it was almost $100,000 city of Rye share. So there were a number of years, and this is why I think, this process, planning this is important, because for the 5 years, before Gary, there were no capital projects at the park, and I don't know if there was a surplus, but I think everything was kind of running pretty, pretty break even. And so there was no ask for, significant funds from anybody, I think. And now we do have all of these capital projects that we're working on to improve the park. And we're also, in deficit time. So it is an added burden. So I think one thing that I think would be super helpful, and I know that you have talked to the mayor, Gary, and I know, I do think it makes sense for, the administrators to put their heads together, because I think really, I know Greg at least puts the budget out for the city of Rye with Joe Fazzino. But a document that isn't, we have a wish list, which was one of the things we did not vote on for 2021, the capital projects list. If it included a little more detail, like clear priorities in terms of which projects, identifying which grants have been applied for and what date, we started to sort of put together a list like that, but something like that, because yes, things come up, but if we can identify sort of a spectrum, I think that would be helpful. And to answer your question, Gary, about what is, a significant spend, less than $100,000, I frankly think for the city of Rye, the perspective is anything over zero is important to know, just because they aren't budgeting for it. And so we're starting, unless there's an ask, it's been zero for the amount that's been allocated has been taken up by the operational deficit. So we're, so every ask counts. So that's why I think it's critical to allocate, to get the city of Rye to allocate an amount that could accomplish some of our capital projects for
Well,
the
I
year,
think,
as well
Emily,
as any unexpected.
I think there's a difference, and I mean, you alluded to it, but stating specifically, there's a difference between operating and capital.
Right.
Mostly the capital we can plan for. When I say $100,000, it's because under that amount, there's, you know, more of a possibility of taking it out of fund balance. Over that amount, then you look to maybe let out a ban. I don't know what the city of Rye's, you know, limit is as to when you have to spend things, whether you have the money in your fund balance or you want to go out to bond. I'm going to make another announcement at the town meeting after this, but we're just converting some bans that we had issued for some capital work to serial bonds, and we just got a rate of 1.56%. And that's almost like free money. It's almost like doing the work and paying it out over 20 years without. So, you know, from our point of view, that's a responsible way to do it. You know, if we have a repair of $20,000, we don't need to do that. You know, we have the fund balance available to do that.
I would also, sorry to interrupt, Gary, but I would caution against sort of waiting for the right budgetary or I guess economic time to make certain improvements, because you do have to take into consideration the increased cost of construction, which is about 3% compound each year. So projects that could have started at 100,000, let's say, you know, if we kick the can far enough down the road, that price could.
Yeah, well, the village of Portchester is very familiar with that, right, Frank, with your bulkhead? I mean, that price escalated, I think, like sevenfold over the last several years.
That is a cautionary tale for the South Shore.
Right. I mean, and we're in that right now because, you know, whether it's because of COVID or other factors, the costs of construction have escalated tremendously. And when we get to the next item, I mean, that the fact that we've been getting prices as good as a price as we've getting is very encouraging, but we've had to go out to bid several times because the prices were so outrageous. But you know, when it comes to capital, you know, there are large projects and small projects. You know, projects, you know, such as wiring something. Running fiber optic cable from one building to the next building, you know, that's not this, you know, that costs a few $1,000s, not the same thing as something that costs $100,000 or $200,000. So we do have a list, Emily, that we had shared of all of the projects, and you can look at them actually in the capital program for the commission. All the projects are listed there. The ones that have been completed, the ones that are in the course of construction, and the ones that are planned. And Diana, you can feel free to take a look at it and be in contact with me or with Debbie to look at them and see, you know, the things that are important. As I say, we're holding off on projects until we see what the grant status is, because we're simply not going to do the project if the grant money's not there. And on the other hand, Emily, you alluded to the fact that work hadn't been done for the years previous. Well, we're paying for that now because things have been falling apart. You know, if the previous administrations, and I'm not going to cast aspersions as to whether they were Democratic controlled or Republican controlled, but the fact is previous administrations, both city and town, did not attend to repair and maintenance of many of our park structures. And the result is that they're falling apart, that they're in need of substantial repair, substantially more repair than had they been taken care of 10 or 15 years ago. So, you know, all of that figures in, but from the question that you asked, Diana, is, you know, we're happy to sit down and work collaboratively with the city. And I made that statement, I think, either last month or the month before with Josh, that we're looking forward to making a plan and a timeline as to what needs to be done and when and how to pay for it.
And I think there seems to be somewhat of a disconnect between, kind of grasping the capital process, because I know, for example, the town of Rye is coming up on budget season. One of the numbers I felt it was important to have was how much debt service we're paying this year. These are projects that were done in previous years. However, the capital planning is, you will know going into the next year, the following year, what's owed, so the town and the city can work out the debt service if you chose to go with capital bonding.
Well, the bonds have
Yeah,
the municipalities.
but you would have a set figure going into that budgetary season.
Yeah, well, the problem is we don't know what things are going to cost until we get an actual bid.
Correct.
So we may, for example, we think we had a contractor estimate the cost of the pavilion roof about 6 months ago at $135,000. That may be true. It may come at $200,000. We don't know. As I say, we're going to apply for a grant for that. And if you'll recall, at the last meeting, we hired the Calgi firm to investigate the cost of the roof, have a roofer take part of it apart, and have the engineers look at it and figure out exactly what the scope is and estimate what it's going to cost. We expect to get that back next week from Mr. Calgi. Is that correct, Debbie? Next week?
Is, yeah, the roofer, the site visit with the roofer will be next week. I can't say that we're gonna have our report next week.
So we could have it a week later than that, certainly before the next meeting.
Yes.
So, as I say, we're looking to do as much work as possible through grants. Most of the grants require a match. Some of the grants can be matched against each other. Some of the grants are at 50%. Some of the grants are at, we only have to put in 10%. The project that we applied for the parking lot only requires a 10% match. And the city of Rye's share would be 40% of that, and the town's 60%. So that would be a good deal if we got the grant, which we don't know if we're going to get. It's a bit of a juggling act as to trying to get the work done. It's very easy to sit back and say we're not going to do any work, but I don't think the residents of the city of Rye or the town of Rye would appreciate having nothing done to improve the park.
And Gary, to that point, you mentioned the pavilion roofs, and I know that they are in desperate need of repair. If we don't get that grant, are the roofs going to stay as is? And we can wait for the next big storm or major weather event?
The answer to that is maybe yes. I don't know. That's a discussion that's to be had.
So to a certain extent, the park commission is kind of backed into a corner when it comes to not just improvement, but preservation of the current structures we have.
Yeah. I mean, we're not looking, look, there are no new structures that are being contemplated. Nothing new is being contemplated. Everything is repair, including the ticket booth, which is replacing the old ticket booth. The work on the bathhouse is not a new bathhouse. It's repairing and renovating what's already there. And I know that the elephant in the room has always been the tower building. I know that Emily, at one point, I think at a community conversation, Emily, I think you said, why can't we knock it down at one point? The question is, what are we going to do with that building? We had an estimate in 2011 for about $15 million. And it's far in excess of that now, and that's just to repair it to where it is. And we don't even know what we could use it for at this point. So there are a lot of conversations that need to be taking place. There's one program that's available that I mentioned to Mayor Cohn that the city of Rye needs to take the lead in, and that's the local waterfront revitalization program, for which there's a great deal of money. And the park would qualify for that. But the commission can't take the lead. The city has to take the lead.
I think as you've just illustrated, there are significant capital projects. I think that we need just a little bit more of a methodical approach to paying for them in terms of, you know, conferring with the city. I really think it's a Debbie Gregg conversation. And I think it needs to happen, from my perspective, for the city of Rye budgetary schedule as soon as possible. So that there can be money there. And I think once we get into a more regular process of communicating and collaborating, I think we could perhaps tackle the tower building, but I think it's so far outside the scope of what anybody's ready or able to do at this point.
The only way the tower building is going to be tackled is if we have a substantial community conversation with all of the stakeholders, and somebody comes in, you know, to decide. There are grants available for planning that kind of stuff, including the local revitalization, waterfront revitalization program. There are a lot of things you could look at, but the fact is that you need to plan what you're going to use the building for. It's a beautiful building on the outside. Anybody who's been in the inside, and I know that Emily has been. Emily and I took a tour of the building about 2 years ago on the inside. Diana, have you been inside the building? The tower building?
I was there a couple years ago and was really sort of taken aback by what I saw. I will give a lot of credit to Russ Gold, though, because I toured it again about maybe 6 months ago. And, you know, what he and his staff have done just to clean it up, literally to take the garbage and the, I don't know, old machinery or whatever was everywhere. They've taken it out, they've swept it up, they've cleaned it up, you know.
Yeah, our maintenance staff is really superb, and we've spent a lot of money. If you've ever looked at some of the expenditures, I know that it flies under the radar. The first couple of years where I was president, we had to spend money cleaning out bird poop from there. I mean, literally, there were.
Yeah, no, I know. I saw that, actually.
You know, I mean, it was like, you got to be kidding me. And that goes back. The previous, I don't want to fault any particular park president or commission, but the park wasn't taken care of over many, many years. And we're trying to rectify that. And, sometimes we end up spending a little bit more money, or even a lot more money than we really want to.
Well, I didn't mean to derail the whole meeting, and so we can certainly move on, but I appreciate the thought and the time and the response. I definitely, as the Friends kind of gains a little strength as an organization, we want to start to be a part of these discussions and planning and see what's possible. Right now I can't really say what's possible, but I'd like to sort of explore what's possible.
You're welcome to do that. We enjoy having the Friends. We enjoy having your viewpoint as to things to do, because my view of you is that you're looking to improve the park. I hope that your view of us is that that's what we're about.
Yeah.
So
thank you very much for your time.
You're very welcome. Thank you. The next item, which I alluded to, is the resolution approving Mace contracting to install and finish the Rye Town ticket booth at the main gate, the middle ramp. If we're going to have a discussion, may I have a motion and a second first, and then we'll have a discussion, please?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. Discussion, please. I know, Emily, did you want to say anything? I know you and I have had conversations about this.
Would you like pictures of the booths up on the screen?
Sure. Possible.
I have a few questions. Gary, I was going through some documents between the time we talked and the meeting started. I still am concerned, and I just don't know, how to get comfortable with it. The roof tiles, my reading of the estimate says the roof tiles are not included, must or should be supplied by the customer, something to that effect.
We have,
I don't think
Emily, we have the roof tiles.
we purchased them. How do we have them?
No, we have boxes and boxes of tiles that are in excellent condition, taken from previous repairs of the roofs, both the bathhouse roof and the tower building roof. If you'll recall, the tower building roof was completely replaced, and I think the cost was $3 million. And those tiles are sitting in our parking lot. So
Okay.
So our maintenance staff will pull those out for the contractor to use. We have enough tiles, according to us, we have enough tiles for 100 of these ticket booths.
Okay, so then the bid by Mace is to frame it and tile it with the supply that tiles by us, and then do the stucco.
That is correct.
And do we know, just by way of comparison, like what the aluminum siding would cost, or the cement siding,
Well,
the prefab?
The prefab was about $3,000, and the stucco that's being put on by Mace is included in the price. It's not separated out, but you can figure it's probably about the same. You have to remember that this is an all-inclusive price, and that the next lowest price, in fact, we just got an estimate in from another contractor that came in last week that was double Mace. We've had estimates for the ticket booth, depending on the configuration, that is up to $160,000. So the all-in price for this is going to be in the approximate $56,000 range, as far as I.
Okay,
I'm not
that's
sure it will
helpful.
pay by a grant.
Right, and so just one other question, and that is, if we were to use the prefab applications, which I'm not suggesting we do, I just want to clarify, we would still need to hire a contractor to apply them or put them on.
I don't understand what you mean by a prefab application.
So my understanding is that the company that we bought the Huttronics or something, whatever it's called, that we bought
Anchor.
Yeah, Anchor, sorry. I don't know why I thought Huttronic. Confusing all the names. That they could supply like prefab aluminum siding, prefab roof, but it would still need to be put on the building.
Yeah, if they did it at the factory, the aluminum, according to the architect, that they would put on would be corrugated. It would be like a corrugated aluminum sign. And that's what it would look like. It wouldn't look probably any better than the booth does right now. And
what I'm just trying to, yep.
And the cost is, as I say, if you look at all of the breakdowns of some of the bids that we've had, I mean, we've had bids in the many thousands just for the roof. And,
right.
So if you're looking at simply the cost, this is by far the best that we can do. If you're looking and say, why, Gary, why didn't you do this? Well, first of all, we wanted to get the ticket booth in. If we waited to have something else done, it would have taken God knows how long. And, we did basically the best job that we could do to get this booth on site at the least expensive cost and to be finished in a manner that is consistent with, what the rest of the park looks like. And Emily and I had a conversation earlier as to, why does this booth have to look like the rest of the park? Why can't it look more industrial? And my answer to that is that this booth is at the center of the park. The mid-ramp is the main ramp to the beach. The promenade is something that everybody uses, and it sits right next to the Barley Beach House, which is basically the same kind of architecture. And while I would not advocate this kind of thing and this kind of an expense even to replace the ticket booth at the South Gate, I think this is entirely appropriate for the beauty of the park and the park goers in this particular location.
Mhm.
And you can
I
see
just
it.
have
Good.
Yeah, I just have two comments, and then I will stop talking. But my, the comment about why couldn't it be industrial? The concern I have with and we talked about this a little bit, is this idea that we are adding this historical aesthetic to additional buildings when we cannot keep up with the maintenance on the existing ones. Granted, this is a small building, and if we keep it up, hopefully we won't need to worry about deterioration of it. But it is a concern, and you just explained that this site has significance as the center of the park. And the other sort of concern I was trying to wrap my head around is, I know that we have SAM grant money that will pay for most of this, and we have that in pocket, right, Gary? Or we've been awarded that SAM grant?
Yes.
So
We're
this
just
is
waiting for the check.
okay. So I guess the thing I was trying to get my head around was, how much are we willing to pay for the decor, and as opposed, so let's say the decor, decorating this hut is $25,000. Could we use that money for another project in the park?
That is, Emily, that assumes that any alternative that you might suggest would cost less.
Right.
I don't know
right.
that it would cost less. I don't know how much less it would cost to put a different kind of finish on it, or if you put a regular roof on it, a roof with, an asphalt covered roof like you have on your house. Certainly this is less expensive than if we're going to put a copper roof on it. We have the tiles. That's one of the advantages to doing it this way, is the tiles are in-house already, and those tiles are expensive. So,
And to that vein, isn't it, haven't these plans been approved by the City of Rye's Architectural Review Board?
yes,
So if we don't go with this model, can't we be issued a violation?
we wouldn't get a certificate of occupancy.
Okay, so that would be an additional risk we would run by not proceeding with this plan.
Yeah, everything is set up to go forward. And, I don't see any reason why we shouldn't move forward on this and get this done. We can't finish the fencing that goes around the rest of it. The fence company is waiting to come back. They're obviously not going to put the fences up while another contractor has to put a roof and stucco on. I don't want people climbing over the fence, obviously, to do that. It's time we got this project finished. Hopefully we could get this done certainly by the end of October, complete. So with that, Debbie, can you take the pictures down? Thank you.
Mr. President, I was reviewing this backup just late this afternoon. I'm a stand-in, as you know, and I thought I read something that basically referred to the fact that these are far more modern building materials with different durability and wear expectancies, and it's a different order of magnitude of the things that were put together 90 years ago. And in addition, I think the aesthetic is very nice, and I think it's very important. I mean, just because we're government doesn't mean that we can't honor the original spirit and intent of this. I think we went through a period in the 60s and 70s where Soviet-style architecture was acceptable in public buildings. I don't think, especially at this price, I don't think there's any reason why we have to go that route. I like this very much.
Thank you, Frank. Jason?
Yeah, no, I would just say that I agree with that statement right there. That really to kind of mirror the look of the rest of the park at one of the entrance ways to it is I think quite important.
Thank you. Diana, I know that the Friends had written a letter previously. Do you have anything that you'd like to add?
Yes, I am trying to figure out how to start my camera. Here we go. Yes, so I did have this discussion recently with some of the board members, and they still support this idea, especially having seen the photos. They feel that it is central to the park. It is, that it's a very, as you say, high visibility location. And I mean, look, we're sensible people, right? We don't want to set up a situation where the maintenance of something is expensive or burdensome and it falls into disrepair in the way that so many of the other historical buildings have. So that is a grave concern for us because for the same reasons, it's central, it's visible, we can't let it fall into disrepair. It does sound like these materials are more modern and perhaps more weather resistant and less prone to wear and tear. But clearly the board was supportive of the idea that this central building, should look the part, should blend with the rest of the buildings.
Thank you. All right, may we vote now?
Gary, I would just say there are comments from the public. Would you like me to enter
Of
them
course.
now or later?
Sure.
Jamie Jensen has indicated on the Facebook page, looking forward to seeing this ticket booth finished and aesthetically pleasing.
All right, thank you, Jamie. Anything else? Anybody else? Got it? All right, thank you. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hurd,
Yes.
Acting Commissioner Ferreira,
Yes,
Acting Commissioner Klein,
Yes.
President Zuckerman.
Yes, thank you all. And I know that this was an extensive discussion about a little building, but I think the discussion was well worth it. Thank you once again, everybody. The next item is a request from SoulRyeders in observance of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. There's a flyer and a photo of a bow. I don't know that there's a resolution. Debbie, are they just asking for permission to tie the park pink?
That's what they are. There's actually there are two requests with regard to Breast Cancer Awareness Month. There's the request from the SoulRyeders to tie the park pink. There's also a request from an organization called Fight Like a Girl to have to use the Rye Town Park as a portion of their walkathon on October 16th. Both don't really need a resolution, but
I think we can do an oral resolution expressing support for each of them. So a motion.
I'd like to make a oral motion to
Sure.
enthusiastically support SoulRyeders Tie the Town Pink program and participation of that program in the park, and separately Fight Like a Girl, the part of their walkathon to go through the park. These are great organizations for great causes. Thank you for all your work.
I agree. Second, please. Lindsay,
I'll second.
thank you. All in favor?
aye,
Aye.
All right,
Aye.
motion passed.
I would like to add, I didn't have a chance to squeeze the words in advance, and I've just been reminded by town councilperson Pamela Jaffe that SoulRyeders has introduced this year sustainable, eco-friendly materials. It's actually a natural burlap that that the pink ribbons are being made from now, and that is in compliance with a request that was made last year that the pink ribbons be sustainable.
I think that's great, and I could see from the picture that it's burlap. I wasn't sure how that was different from the ones that they had last year, but those are, that's great. All right, fantastic. Thanks to Pam for that comment. Presentation from the Rye Youth Council to propose an event in November. What is that about, Deb? Oh, I see the Rye Youth Council is here. Hi, introduce yourself.
I am. Hi, my name is Lisa Dominici, and I'm the Executive Director of the Rye Youth Council. I've actually stood before this commission in the past asking for permissions for the pink ribbons, so hopefully this will go the same way. Rye Youth Council is a 50-year-old nonprofit 501c3 organization based in Rye, and our mission is to support the social, emotional, and mental health of young people in our community, grades K through college. For the past 2 years, we have held a Rainbow Fun Run, which is a color run at Rye Recreation. It's a fun run walk for kids in grades K through 6 that meanders through a half-mile to a 1-mile course where kids are doused by volunteers with colorful powder, which I'll get back to in a second. This year, we plan to hold the run on Tuesday, November 2nd, which is Election Day, with a rain date of November 11th, which is Veterans Day. And I'm here tonight to ask permission from the commission to hold the run in the park this year. Rye Recreation is under construction, and they are not sure if they're going to be done by the time our run takes place. The color powder that we use are non-toxic, high-quality cornstarch, food dyes, and baking soda. They're actually gluten-free and free of nuts and dyes. And although there's a lot of powder on the grass when the run is done, it washes away with rain or a hose. So there's really nothing left behind once it's hosed off or rained off. And this run in the past for us is attended by between 200 and 300 kids. Last year, as this year, all the kids are given a rainbow mask with their registration. The masks are mandatory. COVID safety protocol are in place and mandatory. We distance the kids as much as we can. We can do timed even starts and utilize the entire park. It's not really, it's a walk run. It's just fun. There's no winning or anything. It's really just to go through the course and connect with their community. Rye Youth Council views this event as an important way to connect kids to their community, and community connection is actually a very effective protective factor to keep kids from unhealthy behaviors. It's one of the reasons that many of our programs do connect kids to community. And for the past 2 years, our lead sponsor has been the Rye PBA, and the Rye Police do in the past have participated pretty heavily in this. They're in uniform and they're throwing the colorful powder on the kids, and it's a really nice event. So I'm hoping that the commission would grant us permission this year to hold the event in the park. It usually lasts between like 9:30 a.m. and it's wrapped up by noon.
Frankly, I don't see any reason why not to. It sounds like a great event. Let's just cut to the chase.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to
Second.
support the.
Second, please.
Second.
Sorry to cut you off, Emily, but
No, yep, go ahead.
no, it's a great cause. I think it's wonderful. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Aye.
You get your wish. No
All right,
problem.
that's great. I'll work with
Thank
Russ
you.
on this one. Thanks, everyone. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Thank you
Good
so
luck.
much. Night.
Nice to see you,
Next is a request to waive the parking fees for the Global Medical Relief Fund event. We have George Klein here. George, I think most of us know what this is about. Can you just state in a sentence or two why you're making this request?
Sure. In the past, my co-host Maria and I have done fundraising for this charity that we've been involved with. Her cousin started 20 years ago. It's very dear to us. We did fundraising through the triathlons in the Westchester Triathlons. We would race in that and raise money. The last 2 years, they haven't had those. This last year of COVID, there's been very difficult fundraising. So we are putting on this fundraiser in the pavilions. We're very thankful for the 50% discount for the 501c3 charity. And we felt that it would be helpful for us if we could get the parking fees waived of $5 per car to promote people to come and not worry about getting a ticket or paying the park, and help us out in that way. Given that the next day the parking fees end for the year, we were hoping that maybe the fees could be waived. The charity has done wonderful things for children, 300, 400 kids over the years, bringing them in from all over the world to give them limbs and arms and legs that they are needed. And just a little personal note, I got involved like about 6 years ago when I heard the story about the 5 Tanzanian kids that were here visiting with the charity, getting limbs because they're albinos living in Tanzania. They were hunted down in the jungle and by witch doctors and had their limbs hacked off and sold for good luck. And so we brought those 5 kids here, and that's what got me started in the charity.
Thank you. Let me just make a comment. I think it's a wonderful charity. I think it's fantastic. Debbie, the regular parking rate is $20?
Yes.
All right. So it's my understanding that based on discussion with Russ, that the procedure in the park is to reduce the rate from the $20 to $5. And that goes for anybody who rents the pavilions. I have a problem with your request, and it's not my decision. It'll be the commission's decision, however they want rule on this. But we have a lot of charities. We have a lot of not-for-profits that use the park, and they all pay the $5. I find it very difficult to make an exception. I know it's the last day of the year, but if we, my view, Gary's view, is that if we make the fee 0, then the next group that comes along will say, hey, you gave it to medical relief. How come we can't get it? We're a good charity too. You know, we're ALS, we're cancer, we're Heart Association. And so, you know, from a process point of view, it's not to say that there's anything, you know, against the charity. I think you're doing wonderful, wonderful work, but I don't think $5 is really too much per car. You know, 4 people in the car and it's still $5. So, and I don't think that impacts your organization because it's not coming out of you. It's coming out of the people. It's you know, that's just how I feel. Any comments from the other members?
Will the beach be open that day on September 26th?
Yes.
I don't think there's a charge for the beach, is there?
Yes, there will be a charge for the beach. That's the last day of lifeguards.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. President, for what it's worth, I don't want to be the Grinch, but I think you put it very eloquently. You know, the park has a policy of doing everything it can to support all of the charities that want to use our facilities. And, you know, there's a 50% discount on the rental. There's a 75% discount on the parking. And, you know, at the end of the day, the park is challenged as it is. And I think that what we do is admirable and certainly sufficient. So I would regrettably not be supportive of this particular request.
All right. Jason, your view?
I agree. I think you need to be consistent across the board. And I was going to ask that question actually, whether what would normally happen. And it sounds like if you're normally charging for cars, you kind of have to be consistent. while as much as we would like to, obviously.
Lindsay?
I mean, I am somewhat torn because this is a fantastic organization. However, and we are talking about the last few hours of charging for parking. We're not talking about the middle of the summer. I don't see too many people looking to park in the parking lot this late in September. That's just my personal leaning.
All right. Emily, are you on?
Yeah, I'm on. Gary, I agree with you. I really appreciate the work of the organization, but I feel like the park is doing what it can to support all the charities that come to the park.
All right. Thank you. I'm sorry, George.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Again, you're very welcome. Thank you for coming and good luck. I believe what you're doing very good work.
Thank you for everything you do in your organization.
Okay, you're welcome. I'd like to point out that Russ and his team have done a wonderful job working with us. There have been a lot of changes over the last month or so, and his team with Jose and has been wonderful.
Thank you. I think they do a great job.
It's much appreciated, George.
Appreciated. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Our last item is the management report. Has everybody read it? I know I've read it. Do we have any comments on the management report?
I just wanted to point out that over the past few weeks, we've had two major weather events, if you can call it that. And I want to just congratulate the staff on their response to these storms, their quick cleanup, making sure that the park is in good shape and ready to accept visitors. So I truly appreciate their work and everything they've done in the past few weeks.
Thank you. And just let me amplify, we have one major item of damage, which is the stone wall and gate at the Oakland Beach Avenue. Debbie, have we done any repair on that yet?
Do you mean the column that was taken out by the delivery truck?
No, that's another one. That's a different one. I'm talking about the damage from the storm.
The pedestrian entrance at Oakland Beach and Forest Avenues. And no, nothing's been done yet. We had a contractor in today. MTS was in to survey it, and John Zicka has come to take a look at it.
Okay, good.
But we're still waiting for numbers.
Thank you for your input, Russ.
Thank you. And as far as the incidental damage at the main entrance off Dearborn Avenue, our insurance adjuster will be here tomorrow.
You just want to explain what that is, incidental damage? Tell us about the truck.
No, there was a delivery truck for the Barley Beach House. It was a 53-foot tractor trailer with a lift gate on the back, and he got in, but on his way out, the tail end of as he was making the turn onto Dearborn Avenue, going out through the entrance, being guided by our team, he cut it too tight or too wide, whatever it was. We have it on video, but the tail end of the truck clipped one of the signature pillars that's at the main entrance gate. And unbeknownst to anybody, there was a gas pipe in there that presumably fueled a gas lantern back when the park was built. But those are long since gone, and now they're just capped with stone crowns. And when it hit, it ruptured the gas pipe. So it was kind of a major emergency, but thank you very much to this, and I really mean this, to the city of Rye for all their emergency responses, and Con Ed. They were there quickly. They cordoned off the area, they shut it down, they got it fixed and stuff, and we were back in operation within just a few hours. So it was really amazing response by Con Ed and emergency services and the city of Rye's fire department and police department. What does that gas line do? Well, it was to do the, we presume to do the lanterns at the top, but gas service goes into the little brick house, which belongs to the city of Rye, which houses a backup generator that is backup power source for the pump at the end of Dearborn Avenue. So that's why it was there, and that's what fuels that necessary generator.
So that's
right.
why it was active.
The line is still active, but I don't think anybody ever thought that they would have to shunt off this riser that's in the column. So, because nobody knew it was there. Nobody's alive that
Yeah,
remembers it
and
being
listen,
installed.
there's a lot of stuff running under and around this park that
Yeah,
nobody.
there's a lot of skeletons buried there. But anyway, all's well that ends, and as I said, we'll keep you posted as to the repairs.
All right. Thank you, Russ.
And we'll discuss the skeletons at October's meeting.
That would be appropriate. Thanks,
Just,
Lindsay.
Russ, make sure that insurance adjuster sees all the damage in the park.
Underline all.
Yes.
Got it.
Well, we certainly what Hurricane Ida wrought as well.
Yeah. Got it.
One other thing, I was going to do it. Russ, bring us up to date on Verizon and AT&T.
Power up, which means placing the meters.
I'm sorry, let me interrupt for just a moment, because this has been a topic on the Facebook conversation. So I just want to headline that we're talking about the cell antenna installation that's underway right now. Okay, please continue.
Major construction is, to my understanding, virtually 100% complete. Both companies have had their inspectors in and have checked everything against the blueprints. So next up is energizing the whole system, and that's Con Ed connecting to the power lines and placement of the meters into the meter bank, which is outside on the Dearborn side of the building. I know it was scheduled to happen on September 9th, but just learned this I learned this back on that day. Con Ed doesn't work in the rain. So it was raining that day, they left. It's been rescheduled for September 22nd, which I believe is tomorrow. So let's hope that that it doesn't rain and everything goes well, and they place the meters. I do not have a conference. There's going to be 3 meters that are placed: one for Verizon, one for AT&T, and one for Rye Town Park. I know that the AT&T and Rye Town Park meters are on the schedule, and Verizon was working diligently to get on that same schedule, but I don't have a confirmation on that.
All right.
After everything's energized and we're powered up, then the testing phase begins for both companies. That's all I got.
All right. Well, hopefully the test will be successful and will be operating. And I believe we're scheduled to start to receive our license payments in October. So that's a good thing.
Yes, sir.
Are there any other questions from the commissioners? No?
Oh, I did want to point out, now that I actually have the opportunity, I know last month we discussed the Fall Harvest Festival. Unfortunately, we came up against a couple of obstacles, one of which is the increasing cases of COVID among children. So we have decided to postpone it, and we will not be hosting it this year, but we look forward to moving forward with it in 2022, hopefully, when we don't have to worry about COVID anymore.
Very good. We'll try to replace get something in the spring.
Yes. Yes.
I want to do that what we did last year with the sand castles. I know Emily really liked that.
One of my favorite events.
Yeah, we should look to do
Hopefully, Yeah, that'd be fun.
All right. I want to thank all of you tonight. I think we had a very good meeting and accomplished a lot. I'm sorry that one of our requesters was disappointed, but I think that we all made the right decision. And I see Jamie's on. Jamie, did you want to say anything? You've entered the meeting.
Gary, I never need to say anything when you run the meeting so well. I was thrilled that Diana asked the question, she did. The conversation went on long, but as I always say to you, I think that we need to stay on top of the process. I think Emily and you were really handled that conversation well, so thank you. We need that conversation to continue.
All right, and with that, unless someone has something else to say, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll
Second?
second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good night,
Aye,
everybody.
Good night.
Have a good evening.
Right.
Night, everyone.
Next meeting is October 19th. Thank you all.